Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today's yoga class is all about balance and stability, and we'll mix it up with dynamic movement and static holds. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify if you need to, rest as often as need be. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to start off today's class coming into a standing pose at the top end of the mat with enough room to step back. We are going to begin with a little tree series, and when we're playing with this tree series, I'd like you to pick a leg stance that works for you. I'm going to demo quickly. When you're coming into the tree pose, pick one of three leg positions. Either big toe connected to the floor, to help with your balance, or you can slide the foot up a little bit higher, coming to rest with the whole foot just below your knee line, not on the knee, please. Or you can pick a high stance with the foot all the way on the inseam of the top leg. All right, find your way to a narrow mountain, standing at the top end of the mat with your feet flush against the midline of the body. Come to stillness with your hands in prayer, and just start for me by maybe taking a moment, closing your eyes, taking your focus inward, starting to root down through your feet. Think of gently squeezing the energy between the inner thighs together. Tuck your tailbone under, pull your belly button in, and stand up nice and tall in Mountain Tadasana. Then gently flutter open your eyes and find a drishti or a focal point on the wall in front of you. Coming into tree pose on side one. Let's pick the right leg first. Picking the leg position that works for you. Look for stillness in mountain. Hands in prayer together in front. Remember that it's your stabilizing leg, your straight leg, that's pushing actively into the passive sole of your bent knee leg. Come back to Tadasana, maybe giving a moment and shaking the legs up. And let's try that on side two. Picking the leg line that works for you as you find your way into Virksasana. Looking for that balance, looking for that stability. Remember this feeling of being rooted and being totally still, finding that sense of balance and control. Every time we come back to tree, we'll play up the arm line. Come back to stillness along the midline of the body, shaking it out, and then find your way into Jupiter Mudra, interlacing your fingers, bringing the index fingers together and crossing the thumbs. You're going to float that mudra overhead, keeping those legs flush along the midline of the body. And we're going to just take a gentle palm tree sway side to side, floating the hands overhead, off center to one side, while you bump the hips softly in the opposite direction, just opening up and taking a bit of active recovery. Come back to stillness. Those legs are still flush along the midline of the body, and find your way back into tree pose. Once you find your tree leg line, drop the arms at your side, almost in a Shavasana-like position, with the palms open. You're going to float them halfway up towards the shoulders and back down again. Just think of it as a soft lateral raise, trying to keep the rest of your tree frame as stable as you can. Keep pulling up softly from the pelvic floor towards your belly button line to help with your stability. End with those arms raised at shoulder height and reach long through your fingertips, keeping your tree as stable as you can. Float back towards the midline, shake the legs out if you need to, and find tree on side two. When you found your tree, begin with those soft Little lateral raises, floating the arms up to shoulder height, and then softly bringing them back down again. Keep shooting for a sense of length through the body. Reach long through your fingertips and your crown. End at shoulder height and hold. Almost thinking of mimicking a tree, reaching its branches long and tall. Find your way back to the midline. Legs are flush along the midline and float into Jupiter Mudra. Finding your little overhead palm tree sway, Palmirasana, side to side. Every time you come into palm tree and you begin to sway the body, see if you can open up a little bit more through the ribs. So trying to come maybe a little bit more off center, trying to reach a little bit taller, trying to come out through the hips, getting an awesome stretch into the whole trunk and the low belly area, as well as the shoulders and the arms. Feet are still flush along the midline of the body. Come back to your tree. And you can even mix up your leg line, maybe going for a halfway hold this time. Find stillness. Find that Shavasana-like position with the arms alongside your body, and I want lots of space between the fingers. You're going to give me a full angel wing sweep, floating the hands overhead to tap all 10 digits on its respective partner. So you've got all the fingers touching overhead. Float softly back down. Take the time as you float those hands overhead to connect each finger, pinky, ring, middle, index, thumb, and then softly float back down. The whole time you're keeping your whole tree stable. Keep looking for that sense of length through the spine. Make sure that you're using your stabilizing leg actively to push in to your bent knee leg. End with those steeple hands overhead, actively pushing into each digit and hold. There's a softness and almost bend in the elbows. Then ease your way back into your narrow mountain. Shake the legs out for a second before you rinse and repeat on side 2. Playing up the leg line if you like to. Find your Shavasana-like line. Angel wing overhead. Tapping each finger to its partner. Pausing before floating back down again. Give me a beautiful inhale as you sweep the arms up. Maybe even retaining the breath as you reach the apex of your reach, and then exhaling softly to float back down. So start making this an active breath exercise and sync the breath pattern to your movement. Soft, almost indiscernible inhales with maybe a soft sigh exhale. End overhead and hold. Each finger, pinky, ring, middle, index and thumb actively pushing into its respective partner. Step back towards the midline, giving your legs a little shake out if you need it. Find your way into Jupiter Mudra and begin your overhead palm tree sway. Exhaling as you come off the center line, inhaling as you transition. Keep belly to spine, keep squeezing the energy between the inner thighs together, and make sure that those legs are flush along the midline of the body. So big toes and ankles pressed firmly against each other. Find your way back to your narrow mountain, and this time you're going to open up the arms into a little cactus-like frame. Find the leg line that works for you. You're going to tap the elbows together along the midline of the body, actively pushing into the two palms in a prayer-like position as you come to the center. So you don't have palms in, you have palms together. You're going to open and close, let's say maybe 5 times. When you bring those hands to prayer in front of your eye line, just imagine looking through your arms to the wall in front of you. And then come to stillness and hold. Step the 2 legs along the midline of the body, shake them up. And you will find that as you come back to the tree, each time your stabilizing leg maybe begins to wobble, the ankle will feel like it's taking a little bit of strain. Find your way into cactus. Bring those 2 elbows and palms together. Pause, squeezing actively into the arms. You're going to feel the pecs. You're going to feel your biceps. And maybe even a little bit of work into the triceps and the shoulders. Take the time to squeeze the 2 elbows and the 2 palms together. Let's do one more. And then we'll hold the last one. Come back to your narrow prayer, shake the legs out, and find your way into Jupiter Mudra, easing into your little palm tree sway. Starting to find a beautiful little flow. Setting a gentle rhythm of your own. Ease your way into tree pose one last time. Finding your way back into that little cactus frame. Float the left arm in front of you. Overlay the right arm into the left. And just pause here in full equal bind Garudasana. Looking for stillness. Looking for control. Giving me the tallest tree frame you can. Reaching long through your crown. Reaching long through your fingertips. And looking through your intertwined hands and arms to the wall in front of you, trying to keep those elbows up nice and high so that they're more or less in line with your shoulders. Then softly unbind, shake your legs out if you need to, and find your way into your last tree line, Vritsasana. Find your cactus arms. Float the right arm in front of you. Overlay the left arm into the right. Coming into full eagle bind. And then looking for stillness. Looking for control. Trying to look through your intertwined limbs to the wall in front of you. Keeping your tree steady and tall. Making sure that you're rooting through all 5 toes of your grounding foot, sending energy down through the whole foot into the mat, while sending energy up towards the sky at the same time, like a tree, firmly rooted to the ground, but growing towards the light. Then intertwine, shake your legs out, and give me one last little palm tree sway as you find your way into Jupiter Mudra. Legs squeezing together along the midline of the body. Opening up through the trunk and the ribs every time you come off center and reach tall through those index fingers. Then find your way back to stillness. We're still trying to keep that narrow stance. And if you find that the narrow stance is too much as we start beginning to play with chair-like movements, you can heel-toe your feet out and come to a parallel stance with your feet maybe about hip-width distance apart. Otherwise, keep them flush. All right. Find your way into prayer pose. Hands are pressing actively into each other. So I want you to feel that the arms, the chest, the upper back, and the shoulders are all working softly while you play with your legs. Keeping those legs nice and flush, we're going to play with the foot line. Float your heels off the mat, pausing, gripping through all 10 metatarsals, and then softly reground to the mat. Keep playing with that gentle lift and lower. Trying to pause, maybe as if you were balancing on a pair of high stilettos, and then release softly back down. But don't just thunk back down to the mat. Try to come back down with active control, looking for that sense of length through the spine as you reground. All right, ready to mix it up. The next time you float up onto the heels, see if you can start bending the knees, bump the weight back into your bum and your heels, and come into a chair seat with your heels floating off the mat. Then retrace your path back and take a quick breather. Let's do that again. Float up. Keep that height of the heels off the floor. Bump the weight back into your bum and your heels so you're not traveling over your toes. Finding a modified Utkatasana chair. Then trace your path back. Shaking the legs out in between if you need to. Let's try that again. Float up. Heels disconnecting from the floor. Then begin to bend the knees, bump the weight back into your bum and your heels. Every time you find your seat, maybe trying to bring those thighs a little bit more parallel to the floor so that you can feel the legs begin to quiver and challenging your sense of balance as you keep those heels off the floor and the legs flush against the midline. Find your way back to center. Shake it up. We're going to add one more piece to the puzzle. Floating up, heels off the floor. Bend the knees as you sit back into your chair, and then try to bring yourself into a haunch line. So coming low to the floor, with those heels still floating, and your gaze firmly on the wall in front of you. Peel back up. Reground, drop the arms at your side. We're going to come into a little bit of active recovery. Hinging from the waist, you're going to come into a little tabletop line, floating the arms out in front, pausing, and coming back to your start position. Do that about 5 times. Trying to keep those legs flush along the midline if you can. If you find that that puts too much strain on the back of your legs, just give yourself a little bit of distance between the 2 feet. So really trying to open up and stretch into the hamstrings, stretch into the whole back chain of the legs. Coming into table and trying to float the arms alongside your ears. All right, let's try to play with that little chair line again. Legs are nice and flush along the midline of the body. You're squeezing actively. Hands are in prayer. Float those heels off the floor. Begin to bend the knees, bumping the weight slowly back into your bum and your heels, squeezing the knees together so you've got a narrow chair. Pause in your chair. Then migrate onto the haunches, keeping steady, steady, steady the whole time. Then see if you can gently twist off center to one side. Hands are still in active prayer. Lead your way gently back to center. Retrace your path back up, trying to keep those heels off the floor. Reground, drop the arms at your side. Legs are still flush along the midline. Exhale as you come into your reaching table. Inhale to float back up. We do that 5 times, playing in your active table, and then floating back towards the midline. And let's find our way into that little haunch line. Hands in active prayer, inner thighs squeezing in, nice narrow mountain. Float your heels off the floor. Start to bend at the knees. Keep the knees together if you can. Bump the weight back into your bum and your heels, pausing in your chair with the heels off the floor. Then come through your chair line, dropping into a haunch line, holding your frame as steady as you can. Twist gently off center to the right and pause. Trying to keep that sense of balance, that sense of control. Ease your way softly back to center. Float back up, reversing your path up. Still trying to keep those heels off the floor till you find your way back to mountain. Drop the arms long and heavy at your side. Big breath in. Exhale as you come into a reaching table. Inhale to stand up nice and tall. Play with that movement dynamically. Trying to keep the legs nice and flush along the midline. So keep squeezing the energy between the inner thighs together. One more. And then we're going to take a little lunge step back from here. And we're going to set up a side angle. So ease your way back into your narrow mountain. And take a warrior two big lunge-like step to the back of the rib. So you've got to bend on the lead leg with your knee and your ankle aligned. The back leg is open at 90, so the toes are looking towards the corner of the mat. Wiggle your feet apart, taking a nice wide stance through the legs, and then bend the elbow of the lead arm, leaning into your lead leg, either arm looking into the center line, or you can have the hand tracking in the same direction as your lead leg. You're going to open up the other arm into a soft half T frame. Take a big breath in as you reach for the sky. And then on an exhale, tap that hand to the mat and open back out. You're going to do that a few times, dropping to the mat and then opening up. Don't lean aggressively into the elbow of the top of your front hand or your stabilizing hand. I want you to rather think of engaging your core. So brace the core and try to hold the majority of your body weight within the core. End with the arm extended to the sky and then begin to extend the front leg, coming into triangle and modified wide triangle and pushing with the back of your hand on the inseam of your stabilizing leg, or you can drop your fingertips to the mat, but try to give me a nice long line from the top arm to the bottom arm as if you were running a broomstick palm to palm. Trikonasana, open triangle, actively pushing with the back of your hand. Maybe your frame is higher up if the floor is not your friend, but just find the triangle that works for you. Let's reverse the triangle. Keeping your leg line, try to tap your back hand to the inseam of the back leg and then reach for the sky like Usain Bolt with your lead arm. Keep reaching along through your limbs and almost think of drawing the energy up on the kneecap of the lead leg towards your belly button line. Then take a big lunge step forward to the front of your mat. Sit back into chair and float the hands out in front of you. Try to bring those thighs and the bum nice and low towards the floor. Try to load through the legs. Then fold it softly forward into table, this time sweeping the arms behind you. And then gently fold it forward, maybe brushing the hands down the back of your thighs, maybe holding onto the calves, or you can drop fingertips to the mat if you prefer. And your leg line is still flush along the midline of the body, so big toes and ankles are still working hard at squeezing in towards the center line. Then soften through the knees and ragdoll style, leading with the back of your ribs. Peel your way back up along the center line. We're going to find that side angle on side 2. So my back will be towards you on this one. Take a big lunge step back, setting up a warrior 2. Like leg line. Bend your lead elbow, either hand facing in or tracking in the same direction as your lead leg, and float your other arm up towards the sky, setting up that half T. When you're ready, tap to the floor and back, either working in a big sweeping motion, or you can bend the elbow every time you tap to the floor and back, whichever feels the most intuitive for you today. Remember to try not to lean all of your weight into your stabilizing arm. So you're trying to hold the majority of your body weight in your core. You're going to end reaching for the sky. Then begin to straighten the lead leg, finding your triangle, pushing with the back of your bottom hand on the inseam of your leg, maybe even tapping the fingertips to the floor if your range of motion allows, and just try to form a long T-like frame between both arms. Run a broomstick from the top palm to the bottom palm. Look for length through the 2 feet, the 2 hands, and the crown of your head. Then reverse your triangle. Dropping your back hand to the back thigh, reaching up towards the sky with your other arm, and hold. Opening up through the front chain of the body. Then in one sweeping motion, take a big step up and use the back toe if you need to find your balance as you come back to narrow mountain, and then sit back directly in your chair, floating the arms out in front as you ease your way into Utkatasana chair. Then sweep the arms behind you as you come into a tabletop. Pausing here, trying to grow through the crown of your head, forming a long line, table-like line through the spine. And then fold through the tabletop line, maybe brushing the hands around or along the back chain of your legs, maybe holding onto the calves. Maybe you'd like to place your fingertips on the mat. Maybe just subtly shifting that energy back and forth in the legs. And then we'll come into some little prep work for Padangusthasana, toe stand. And we will just play with it. So find that narrow mountain and ragdoll style, lead up. Shaking those legs up if you need to. All right, find that flush, narrow mountain with the legs along the midline, squeezing into center. Find your drishti, or your focal point, on the wall in front of you and start to hone in. Then think knee to nose on the right. Start bending the right knee, bringing it up through the tabletop line, and maybe interlacing around the knee and just hugging that whole knee in towards your chest. Keeping your stance as tall and as still as you can. Step back towards the midline, shake it out. And try that on side 2. Thinking knee to nose. Look for stillness, look for control. Then step back into your narrow mountain, arms along your side, and come straight into a little forward fold, brushing the hands down the back of your thighs. Maybe trying to end in a calf hold and just holding steady here. Making the crown of your head nice and heavy. Making sure that the weight bearing is equal between the balls and the heels of your feet. And then softening through the knees, leading with the back of your ribs. Peel up into a nice tall stance again. We're going to add to that basic work. Find your narrow mountain with the legs squeezing in towards the midline of the body, and then start to bend the right leg, thinking knee to nose. Hold it. See if you can find your way from here into a half lotus line, reaching for the foot of the right leg, bringing the heel in as close towards the inside of the left hip bone as you can, maybe keeping hold of the foot as you come into a Shavasana-like position on the right with the arm just soft and relaxed, palm gently looking up. And just hold here, looking for strength, looking for stillness, looking for balance, looking for control. And step the 2 feet together. Give a little shake up. Let's try that on side 2. Find your narrow mountain. Squeeze the energy between the inner thighs together. Then think knee to nose. Now start to think of your half lotus line. Reach for your left foot. Start bringing the heel in towards the opposite hip, maybe keeping grip of that foot. And just relaxing the left arm at your side in a Shavasana-like position. Standing up nice and tall, making sure you're rooting through that stabilizing foot. And the whole time you're almost thinking of still, even though its partner isn't there, you're squeezing in towards the midline on that stabilizing leg. Keeping your eye firmly trained on your drishti on the wall in front of you. And step the 2 legs back along the midline, shaking them out if you need to, and coming back into your forward fold. Uttanasana, maybe brushing the hands down the back chain of your legs, maybe aiming for the calves. And trying to keep that narrow stance if you can, so big toes and ankles are still flush along the midline of the body. Play with that weight placement in your feet, so maybe there's a subtle sway back and forth until you've found that midway point with the weight bearing equal on the balls and the heels of your feet. Then softening through the knees. Ragdoll style, leading with the back of your ribs. Peel up. Find your narrow mountain. Think knee to nose on the right. Every time we'll just layer it like an onion. Find your half lotus line on the right. And then try to keep your half lotus line. You're going to try to gently fold forward from here. As slowly as you can. Maybe tapping one hand gently to the floor. Pausing here. Then gently peeling back up. Stepping those 2 feet together, maybe giving them a little shake out before we repeat the same on side 2. Think knee to nose. Find your half lotus line. And once you're ready, keeping the half lotus line with as much slow control as you can, try to fold through the center line, maybe tapping your fingertips gently to the floor and pausing there. Belly to spine, looking for balance, looking for control. Reverse your path back up. Easing your way back into your narrow mountain, giving the legs a little shake out. Before you fold it forward, keeping the legs flush, brushing the hands along the back chain of your legs as you come through Uttanasana. Maybe holding gently onto the calves. Keeping belly to spine. Then soften through the knees and ragdoll style. Peel back up, restacking your whole body. All right, let's add another layer of the onion. Find your narrow mountain. Think knee to nose on the right. Find your half lotus line. Holding onto those toes. Then begin to fold forward. When you're ready, then maybe coming onto the haunches from here and just holding. Trying to peel your back heel off the floor. Maybe keeping both sets of fingertips just gently on the mat. Relaxing down. Peeling back up. Reversing your path back up. Stepping the 2 feet flush along the midline of the body, giving them a little shake up. Let's repeat on side 2. Find your narrow mountain. Think knee to nose on the left. Set up your half lotus line. And then begin to fold forward. Then begin to bend your right knee, float the heel up off the floor, coming into a haunch hold. Maybe fingertips just softly connected to the floor, just looking for a sense of evenness on the left and the right side of the body. And we won't take it further than this today. We'll keep both hands on the floor. And then gently heel back up, retracing your path back up to standing. Step the 2 legs together, give them a little shake up. And come into your forward fold one last time. Brushing your hands softly down the back of your thighs. Keeping the weight bearing equal on the balls and the heels of your feet. And then from Uttanasana, you're going to soften at the knees, place your palms on the mat, and step back into a 4-point kneeling frame on your mat. Make sure that you've got a nice long line through the spine. Pretend that you're balancing a teacup and saucer on your back. Look for a sense of length through the neck and the spine. Extend the right arm out in front of you. Extend the left leg out behind you. And then float the arm and the leg into tabletop and try to hold that long line. Reaching for the wall in front of you and the wall behind you. Then begin to dynamically bend the elbow and the knee of the floating limbs and hover them back into 4-point kneeling. Come back to the extension. So think of this almost as a modified bird dog. Your palm is looking down towards the mat and you're floating back into tabletop. So stopping when the 2 palms are alongside each other and the 2 knees are alongside each other. So lots of balance and control and core activation required for this movement. In back and extension, tap the wall in front of you and the wall behind you. Stay there or float the arm and the leg out to 90 and hold, bracing actively into your foot of the floating leg. Ease your way back to center. Drop back down to the mat. Take a big breath in, and then the arm that was working hard to stabilize you, the left arm, float it up towards the sky. And on an active exhale, thread underneath your right armpit. As you thread through, come to rest on the side of your head, trying to keep your hips stacked softly over your knees. Maybe finding an opportunity to now float the right arm up to the sky. Maybe bending the elbow, rotating the palm in, reaching for your opposite hip. As you hold Sukhi Rangasana, thread the needle, opening up that top elbow, looking gently towards the sky if you can, while keeping your hips stacked softly over your knees and your core engaged to hold the majority of your body weight so that you're not leaning everything into your head and your neck. Then reverse your path back to your 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. Peel up into a high kneel and take a little lunge step forward with your right leg, knee and ankle aligned. Leaning softly forward, maybe you'd like to push off the front knee. If this feels good and the balance and the control is there today, maybe float the toes of the back foot off the floor, reach same hand to foot, and maybe just soften that whole back leg, bringing the heel in towards your bum. And then maybe change up the stretch and actively kick the foot into your palm and change that stretch on the back leg. And relax that back leg to the floor. Come back into a high kneel and ease your way back into 4-point kneeling on the mat. Find that long tabletop line. Keep pushing the mat away so you're not dropping and collapsing. You're pushing the mat, retracting through the shoulders. Slide the left arm forward, slide the right leg back, and then float them up into table. Look for balance, look for control. Try to forge a long line through the arm, the neck, the back, the leg. Then dynamically bend the two floating limbs, hover them back into table so the palm and the knee are floating just off the mat as they come back to table. Synchronizing your movement so that you stop when the two palms are alongside each other and the two knees are alongside each other. End in extension and hold, or float the opposite arm and leg out to the side of the room, kicking actively into the foot of your stabilizing leg. Float back towards the midline. As you find 4-point kneeling, take a big breath in, float the right arm up to the sky this time. On an active exhale, thread underneath your left arm, coming to rest on the side of your head. Maybe floating the left arm up to the sky, maybe even bending that elbow, rotating the palm in, reaching for your opposite hip, maybe gently peeking up to the sky. And then ever so gently, find your way from here into a high kneeling frame. Take a little lunge step forward with your left leg, maybe pushing off your lead thigh. And if that feels good, begin to float the back foot off the mat, reaching for that back leg. Maybe for your first stretch, just focus on softening the whole back leg. So think soft quad, soft hamstring, soft glute, and just try to tap the foot in towards your bum. And then change up the stretch, actively kicking the back foot into your back hand. And if you are feeling any sensitivity underneath the knees, maybe just roll your yoga mat double or slip a hand towel underneath the knee for additional padding. Then ease your way from here into a seated frame of your choice. I'm going to ease my way into Thunderbolt, so knees together, feet together, just sitting back. Relax the hands on the top of your thighs, indicating that you're open and receptive, and we'll end with a little bit of breath work, Chandra Beda. Take your middle and index finger and tap them or touch them to the third eye. With your thumb, you're going to control the opening and the closing of your right nostril, and with your ring finger, you're going to control the opening and the closing of the left nostril. For this particular exercise, we're only going to be inhaling through the left nostril and only exhaling through the right. So you're isolating the inhalation on the left side of your body, activating into your parasympathetic nervous system, just calming and relaxing the body to end off your practice. When you're ready, connect the middle and the index finger to your third eye, maybe taking an opportunity to close your eyes and take your focus inward. Close your right nostril with your thumb and take a nice long inhale through the left nostril. Then close the left nostril and exhale through the right. Now close the right nostril and inhale again through the left. Close the left nostril and exhale through the right. Begin to find a steady inhalation to exhalation rhythm, playing at a 1 to 2 inhalation to exhalation ratio. So if you're inhaling for 3, you're going to double up and exhale for 6. Or you can go 4 to 8, 5 to 10, 6 to 12, but find a pace that is sustainable for you with no strain on the exhale. If you're comfortable with these two components of the breath, you can add in a third component, retention of the breath. So let's say you're inhaling for 3 counts through the left. Close the left nostril, nod your chin to your chest and retain your breath for 6. Then release the chin lock and exhale for 6 out of the right nostril. So now the breath ratio becomes 1 to 2 to 2. Inhalation to retention to exhalation. Find a steady pace of your own, but at no stage should you be straining on either the retention or the exhalation portion of the exercise. Middle and index fingers softly activating into your Anya chakra to help keep your focus and your concentration and your sense of consciousness while you play with the breath. Just getting into a steady rhythm of your own. Make this your last round of Chandra Veda, moon-piercing breath, keeping your focus inward facing, calming and restoring the body after your active practice. After your last round of Chandra Veda, just softly drop both hands into your lap. Keeping the eyes closed, just give yourself a couple of soft recovery breaths, inhaling and exhaling through both nostrils equally. Then keeping that inward focus switched on, bring your hands to prayer in front of your heart and end off your practice for today. Namaste to you all. Thank you so much for coming out and joining me. Hope you enjoyed today's class. Give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Shoot me your comments. Make sure your notifications for this channel are on and be ready to work and play tomorrow. So then, keep it light.